Hi, I'm Kay. I am a student here in Canada. And na-discover ko yung si Uni Study through a YouTube blog of Miss Mayrin Tesico, which is sa kanya ako nag-inquire paano ba yung process ng student pathway, which is ito yung madaling way para makapasok ng Canada. And madali yung naging process kasi even sa pagpili ng program, tinulungan nila ako kung ano yung maging mabilis at madali para sa akin, which is I am a teacher in Philippines. And here, I am taking Early Childhood Education and Care Diploma. So, malaking tulong yung naibigay sa akin ng Uni Study and ni Mayrin because yung plan namin to have a complete family settling in one country happened. So, right now, we are currently living in Dawson Creek, British Columbia, which kasama ko na yung family ko, my husband, which is before working in other country. We are separated for 12 years, long distance relationship. I am with our kids and through the help of Uni Study, sama-sama kami dito ngayon, starting our life, our new life. And till now, pag may queries kami, which is some pathways for PR, sumasagot pa rin sila and they help me in everything. That's all.
Hi everyone, my name is Jonathan, an international student here in Canada, and currently I am studying at Northern Lights College here in Dawson Creek, British Columbia. I was able to come here because of Miss Mayrin. Her informative videos, her YouTube channel are helping a lot of international students, not only Filipinos, but also other nationalities to come here and study in Canada. And because of her passion and dedication in helping other people, she created a bigger platform called the Uni Study Canada. So if you're also interested to come here as an international student, please don't hesitate to message them and avail their services because you are in good hands. She's very knowledgeable when it comes to student visa application and other immigration processes. So we'll see you here in Canada.
Hello kabayan, kumusta po? Ako po si Regina Custodio, galing po akong Cebu City. So ako po ay kasalukuyang nandito sa Canada as an international student here in Dawson Creek, British Columbia. So ang program ko po is Diploma in Early Childhood Education and hopefully makatapos na po ako ng aking pag-aaral this coming April 6. So last day po ng semester namin at ang graduation po namin is May. Yay! So magtatapos na po ako soon. Paano nga po pa pala ako nakarating dito? So, ako po ay may plan talaga ever since na mag-international student kasi nga po nalaman ko na ang pagiging international student ay ito ang pinaka-easiest pathway para makapasok ka ng Canada. Although it needs a lot of money, but doable po siya at saka it is possible. Pero at first po, nagdadalawang isip po talaga ako kung paano. So, kaya nga po, natutunan ko pong mag-YouTube at kung paano, kung anong dapat gawin. So, ayan, nakita ko si Mayrin Tesico sa YouTube at finalo ko po yung vlog niya at lagi ko po yung kung anong sinasabi niya, kung anong ina-upload niya, lagi po ako nakaabang. So, yung mga lahat ng mga information na sinishare niya, ginajot down ko po yun sa aking notebook. Maging sa pag-apply sa school, kung anong dapat gawin, kung anong dapat i-prepare, at saka yung mga kailangan, SOP, at saka pag-open ng GCK. So, siya po yung nag-guide. Lagi po akong nakaabang. Hindi po ako laging nagtatanong kasi nga po, para sa akin, yung vlog niya is very informative. Nandun na po lahat. Ipa-follow mo lang po. Mayroon nga siyang doong vlog na ang siya po ay nag-open ng GCK at saka kung saan ka dapat mag-login. So, doon po ako nakakuha kung paano. At saka nag-iwan po siya. May isang vlog po siya na iniwan niya po yung email address niya para makapag-reserve ka po ng letter of offer galing sa school. So, kung makakuha na ka ng letter of offer from school, ay doon po magsa-start ang journey mo. So, after po ako nakabayad na sa school ng 1 semester, doon na po ako ng aking pagiging international student dito sa Canada. So, nung na-approve na naman ako, siya na naman yung kinontak ko kung anong dapat gawin. Kasi nga pandemic, so mahirap po pumasok noon sa Canada. Buti na lang po, na-lift na po yung quarantine period at saka yung mga requirements na send ko po sa kanya. So, yun po na magiging 39 years old, nasasakit na po yung balakang nyo at saka yung mga kasuka-sukaan nyo. Yun lang po, through the help of Miss Mayrin Tisico, for sure, wala pong mintis. Apply na habang maaga. Yan lang po. Bye-bye.
Alright, ayan. Hello, hello, good evening everyone. So, yung discussion po natin tonight is all about studying in Australia. At kasama ko nga po dito si Miss Ninya, who is very knowledgeable with student pathway to Australia. So, Miss Ninya, are you there? So, wait lang natin si Miss Ninya ha. Nagka-issue lang siya sa kanyang camera. 1 second. Hello.
Hello.
Ayan, Miss Ninya. Ang ganda-ganda po naman ni
Ayan.
Miss Ninya from Miss Universe. Miss Ninya, you can try to rejoin if ever. Kasi mag-introduce pa din naman ako dito sa ating mga
Sige,
students.
sige. Let me try to just rejoin and
For sure.
I'll
Yes
see if
po.
camera
And
works
you're
next time.
For sure. So,
Okay.
ayan. Habang nagre-rejoin si Miss Ninya, I just wanted to tell you, yung discussion tonight is all about student pathway to Australia. So, I know marami ding gusto malaman or magkaroon ng second option because we know kung gaano kamahal yung pagpunta ng Canada. And of course, hindi naman lahat may kamag-anak sa Canada din. Yung iba may kamag-anak sa Australia. And the weather in Australia as well is even better. Mas mainit po doon kumpara sa Canada. And of course, kung uuwi kayo ng Pilipinas, mas mabilis kayong makakabalik dahil mas malapit po at mas mura yung ticket, 'di ba? So this is a great option as well. Another thing, student visa po for Australia have more complex application. Unlike po sa Canada na medyo ano siya isa lang or dalawa, like let's say if 1 year 1 year studies equivalent to 1 year work permit, and if 2 year studies equivalent to 3 years work permit. So that's basically it about discussion for tonight. And again, Miss Nina is here. She have been helping students to study in Australia for about 2 years now. At siya po ang ating partner for tonight to give you or provide a better or more informative information about it. So ayan, para sa mga interested, this is your time to ask questions and learn more about studying in Australia. All right, after you, Miss Nina.
Thank you so much, Miss Myrene. Thank you for inviting me tonight. And of course, hello everyone. Good evening or good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are watching from. We hope that for this session, you learn more about what it is like to study in Australia if you're considering going there for your studies. And yeah, so if ever you have any questions, feel free to just put them in the chat in our live session or send Miss Myrene a message so that later on we can discuss. Okay, so I'll be sharing my screen. Let me just give me a moment. Yeah, yeah. So let me know if visible na po ang ating screen.
Yes, Miss Nina, visible na po.
Ayan, perfect. Okay, so for this evening, we will be discussing, of course, Australia. Before we go into the details of studying in Australia, I just want to give our audience members some information about the country, just in case you're not too familiar about the country or you want to get to know more about where you might possibly live and study. No, so in terms of the geography, Australia is actually the only country that is also a continent in itself, and it is roughly around the same size as the U.S. or the United States of America. So malaki po siya. Marami pong areas doon. And in terms of the states, we have New South Wales, Tasmania, Victoria, Queensland, South Australia, and Western Australia. And they also have two major territories. So that's Australian Capital Territory and the Northern Territory. Ang capital city po niya ay Canberra, and for in case you are looking for reasons to study in Australia, let me give you some. So, based on the UN's 2023 World Happiness Index, Australia is the 12th happiest country in the world to live in, and the standard of living is amongst the highest in the world. However, in comparison to the US and the UK, the living expenses and tuition costs are lower. And Australia is also very culturally diverse. Marami pong immigrants like Filipinos, other Asians, and other nationalities. So you can expect to be in a melting pot of cultures in Australia. And while there is a lot of diversity, a political unrest is also quite rare. So, given that, strict gun control laws are also implemented so that you can ensure that it's a safe environment to live and study in. And more so, Australian institutions or schools consistently rank highly for their quality of education, student satisfaction, and global reputation. So, regardless of what school, what college or university you study in, you can ensure that the level of education or the quality of education you will receive in Australia is world class or internationally recognized. And so, just to give a quick rundown of the popular locations that you might be considering for Australia, of course, the biggest and most populous and most famous city known by many people is Sydney. However, it is also the most expensive city. So, that's something for you to take into consideration when you are considering your cost for studying in Australia. Sydney is also the business and financial capital. The next biggest city is Melbourne. So it's very similar to Sydney, but it's also very popular for cultural and artistic experiences. So if you're more on the artistic side and you want to be surrounded by a lot of art, a lot of diversity in terms of its its food as well and its coffee, Melbourne is definitely a place for you. So uh, yeah, second most populous city, and it's located in the state of Victoria. The third biggest city is in Melbourne, which is in the eastern coast of Australia. Sorry, in Queensland, which is in the eastern coast of Australia, and it is Brisbane. So Brisbane along with the smaller city near it, Gold Coast, are known for sunny weather and booming tourist destinations. So kung mahilig po kayo mag-beach, mag-outdoor activities like surfing, definitely check out Brisbane and Gold Coast. Um, the next city is Perth, which is in the western side or Western Australia state. And Perth is the capital city there. And one thing to know is that that side of Australia has the same time zone as the Philippines.
And
Okay, the
Miss
next
Nina,
one.
I just
Yes.
wanted to add, they really need to listen to this part kasi there would be part kasi 'di ba sa permit nila na naka-base din siya sa location.
Yes, yes. So, yeah, it's good to also check out the different places. Baka may na-imagine kayo kung saan kayo nababagay na environment. Or also, if you have family or friends who are residing in Australia, you might be able to identify saan ba yung mga areas nila. Ayan. So, Adelaide, which is in South Australia, it is the state's fifth most populous city, currently ranked third most livable city in the world. And they say po that you can travel around Adelaide within 20 to 30 minutes. So that's very accessible ang mga locations or mga destinations in Adelaide. Darwin is a city in the Northern Territory of Australia. So, um, given that it's in the northernmost area of Australia, you will be experiencing a lot of tropical climates. So very similar po here in the Philippines. So may wet and dry season din po sila. Tasmania is an island that is separate from the mainland of Australia, and it is very accessible by plane and ferry. So it's known as a tourist destination with many uh, works or work sorry jobs in the field of tourism and hospitality as their main industry. um, and then of course the last or the capital city of Australia is Canberra. It is also one of the best cities that are ranked to for you to live in this. Yeah. So I will be explaining the Australian education system. I'll try to simplify it or make it easy for everyone to understand. But essentially, the Australian education system is categorized by their Australian qualifications framework. So meron po siyang 17 national qualifications that are categorized into three sectors. So the schools, the vocational education and training, levels and the higher ed. So when it comes to the schools, um, part of it are the levels in preschool, primary school, secondary school, and senior secondary school. So essentially from preschool hanggang senior year of high school, ang first categorization. The next one, so once a student finishes their year 12 qualification or something that is similar to it, if you're coming from international, from a different country, um, the next step that you can pursue is vocational, which prepares people for work in careers, practical training na, and straight to workplace na, straight to workplace experiences na. So you don't necessarily need a university degree to find employment in a particular field of study. So in vocational programs, may mga standards for training so that the people who finish these programs are immediately prepared for their work. So under vocational, you have certificates 1 to 4 ang levels ng ating study, followed by diploma and advanced diploma. And then for those who are a bit more academic and they really want to experience, college life or university life, they can move on to higher education. So higher education involves associate degrees or bachelor degrees, pati na rin po yung postgraduate degrees such as graduate certificate, graduate diploma, master's degree, and lastly your PhD or doctoral degree. So in Australia, we have a lot of government or public universities and meron din po tayong private universities. um, in all the states. Okay. So, for higher education, it's not very common that Filipino students go for associate degrees. Usually, Filipinos already who have an undergraduate or senior high school qualification here can pursue a bachelor degree in Australia, and ang duration po niya is around 3 years. Pag honors po or honors program po ang kanilang program, pwede po siyang mag-extend ng 4 years or 5 years. So yun po yung isang main difference ng undergraduate or bachelor's degree in Australia compared to here in the Philippines. Kasi sa atin, usually 4 years ang pinaka-standard. Sa kanila po, 3 years. Ayan. Um, ang pinaka-exception na siguro if you want to take a medical degree, if you want to be a doctor in Australia, mga 5 to 6 years din po yun. Pati na rin po ang mga honors programs like in engineering and other science courses. Ayan. Once you finish your undergraduate degree, you can also have the option to pursue your master's degree in Australia. So depending on what the program is or how your qualifications match up to the master's degree program, pwede po siyang 1 year lang, pwedeng 1.5, pwedeng 2 years. Usually standard na po ang 2 years for master's degree. But for those students who are coming from abroad or for example here in the Philippines na nakatapos ng bachelor degree nila, but based on the assessment of the school in Australia, hindi pa sila qualified or ready for the level of study in Australia for master's degree, they can opt to take a graduate certificate or graduate diploma that is packaged towards a master's degree. So, ang difference lang po ng graduate certificate and graduate diploma is the duration of the study. So, graduate certificate is usually 6 months lang ang study. And then after you finish that, your master's degree will be around 1.5 years na lang. And then if you take the graduate diploma pathway, um, you can take it for 1 year, and then your master's degree will just be another year left na lang. Ayan. And then you have your PhD, which is around 3 to 6 years. And this is really for those who have experience in the academic field and very much into research. So definitely there are a lot of universities who are more than happy to accommodate PhD students. You just need to be able to have be able to get the approval of a possible mentor from your university. Ayan. Okay, so sometimes when it comes to assessing the students' qualifications, in their prior studies, minsan po hindi nagtutugma or nagmamatch yung qualifications nila for Australia. So in order to prepare the student for the level of study in Australia, there are pathways that international students can take. So pathways are usually used for undergraduate degrees, those who want to take their bachelor degrees. So if you finish senior high school here, or year 12 equivalent, you can either go for foundation program or diploma program. So I will be discussing the difference. Ang foundation program po, if the student doesn't meet the entry requirements of an undergraduate bachelor program, they can take a foundation program, which is usually around siguro 8 months up to 1 year of preparatory classes so that they can um, be ready for their undergraduate program. So medyo general po ang mga subjects in a foundation program. And for students who want to go for the top schools in Australia, usually this is their pathway into that school. Um, and then the other option is diploma program, or what they call the degree program. So diploma programs can be a bit more specific compared to a foundation kasi ang foundation nga, like I said, general po ang mga subjects na kina-cover niya. Ang diploma po, pwede na po siyang focus na on the particular course that you want. So for example, you want to take diploma of IT, diploma of information technology. Once you finish that program, diretso ka na po ng bachelor of information technology. So ang difference niya is when you finish your foundation program, you will proceed to first year of your bachelor degree. But when you finish your diploma program, you will proceed to your second year of bachelor degree. So parang um, almost like first year college na rin po ang diploma program. Yun po ang siguro ang parang equivalence niya to our terms, no? Ayan. So, in some cases, students still need to take the foundation program kasi not all courses have a corresponding diploma program available. So usually po diploma programs are for business related or IT or nursing, very select po. So make sure you can also discuss this um, with Miss Myrene or whoever will be helping you out in your application. And you also look into what programs are being offered in the school that you are considering. Ayan. Another possible pathway is your ELICOS or what they call English Language Intensive Courses for Overseas Students. So these are English classes that will allow students uh, to improve their English skills before they start their studies in Australia. So who takes this? Usually students who did not meet the English language requirement of their program or are not yet confident to study in Australia with their level of English. So it's very rare, I will say, for Filipinos to have to take ELICOS. But in case that a student needs to take it, the school will assess the student's English language skills and determine how long or gaano katagal ang kailangan na lang ELICOS program. So usually per week siya. And usually the study period is 20 hours per week. So it will just depend how long you will need to take it. But ELICOS tends to be a bit expensive. So I would advise na lang na maybe invest or prepare for your IELTS or other tests that are being considered for Australian schools like PTE or TOEFL. So yeah. Okay, so moving on to study in Australia, let me just check if there are, um, okay, let me just check if there are questions. Okay. May effect po ba sa permit after studies yung number of years ng program? Okay, so I'll discuss this later when we get to the post-study work requirements, but I promise I'll get back to that. Um, but just to continue with my presentation now, when it comes to preparing for your studies in Australia, general entry requirements, well, of course, case-to-case basis po ang pag-assess since students have very unique situations or unique um, qualifications. But generally, if you want to go for a vocational course or program, so that certificate to diploma or advanced diploma, you need to at least have been able to finish your year 11 equivalent. Or if you were a first year university student but you weren't able to finish it, you can still go for vocational studies in Australia. And the language requirement for it usually is an IELTS academic score of 5.5 overall. So yun po yung overall band score nyo for your IELTS. For undergraduate studies, you can be a year 12 or senior high school equivalent, or if you started to take your college here pero hanggang second year lang natapos mo, you can still enroll in your undergraduate studies in Australia. And the minimum grade requirement for IELTS academic is around 6 to 6.5 overall. So we just need to check ano yung specific score requirement for that particular program that you're looking at. Okay, for postgraduate studies, of course, you need to be able to finish your bachelor's degree first before you pursue your postgraduate studies. And the IELTS academic requirement is also around 66.5. So below here, you may notice that there are certain programs such as nursing, teaching, social work, or any other programs that are related to these fields, no, that tend to require a higher English language skill or English language proficiency from the students. Usually po, required po ang IELTS academic and you need to score a minimum grade of 7 overall for your undergraduate and or postgraduate studies. So just take note of this when you are considering your programs in Australia na of course pag medyo mataas yung demand for you to communicate with other people outside of the classroom, like for example in nursing, where you are always exposed to the hospital environment and you need to be able to communicate effectively to patients and to other people in the hospital. And of course, teaching and social work very demanding din po in terms of the language proficiency. Kaya po mataas ang require nila na IELTS academic score. Ayan. Okay, so for living and education costs in Australia, so you should be aware, of course, of what the cost is of your studies before you apply for your studies in Australia. So of course, when you're in the planning stage, make sure you know what school you want to apply to, how much your tuition is, and of course, these things depend on the level of study on and also the location where you will study in Australia. But generally, here is a table that I've created to summarize your expenses for at least the first year of your studies. Your school costs can be around 370,000 to 1.8 million pesos. So, depende na din po yun kung vocational studies ang kukunin nyo. Siyempre, mas mura po siya lalabas compared to your undergraduate or your master's degree na medyo mas may kamahalan din talaga. And then, in terms of your health insurance, so definitely when you go to Australia or before you even go to Australia, kailangan po nakapag-avail na kayo ng health insurance nyo that will cover the entire duration of your study in Australia. So, for example po, 2 years po ang inyong program. Kailangan 2 years din po ang health insurance nyo because that will also determine the length of your student visa. Ayan. So schools can also help arrange that for you, or they can be the one to fix your health insurance and kasama na po siya sa deposit nyo when you enroll into the school. Ayan. In terms of living expenses, so it can amount to around 898,000 or almost 900,000 pesos per year. So this covers your expenses outside of your school and your health insurance. So yung rent nyo, if you will be living in an apartment or even if it's a shared apartment, or you're going to avail student accommodations. It also covers your daily expenses such as your groceries, your transportation, and other miscellaneous expenses that you might foresee in Australia. Ayan. For student visa, so the standard processing fee for student visa subclass 500 is 710 AUD or Australian dollars. So based on how I converted it, it would be around 26,000 pesos. And then you will also be required to undergo a medical exam. So, after you lodge your visa application, you need to take your medical exam within 14 days of lodging your application. And may mga providers po na accredited by the Department of Home Affairs of Australia. So, we can later on help provide all these resources so that you can prepare for these. And of course, if you have dependents like a spouse or a partner or children that you would like to take with you, sila po may extra cost din sa visa application and medical exam. Ayan. Lastly, of course, you will need to set budget for your airfare. So, depending on the time of the year that you book your flights and also the airline, um, uh, where you that you will choose for your flights. It could be around 30,000 to 45,000 one way. Ayan. So ang total natin, which will amount to around 1.3 million to 2 million in the first year of your studies. Ayan. And then later on, I can share this with Miss Myrene also so that you can have access to this link. But you can also visit this website in your own time. So it's studyaustralia.gov.au. You can find all the information that I have shared here when it comes to preparing for your studies in Australia. They also have a tool that's called the cost of living calculator. So, para siyang, calculator that you use in the browser. Pag kinlik mo siya, you will see, you can input information about how much you think you will be spending for your daily living. And dun po ninyo pwedeng basehan yung magiging estimated cost niyo for your studies. Ayan. Okay, let me just do a Ayun, quick check on on the questions. Okay. Nagwe-waive din po ba ng IELTS sa Australia? Okay, so in terms of the English proficiency requirement, usually din po talaga nagre-require po sila ng proof of English proficiency. So IELTS po ang pinaka-standard. But you can also look into PTE or TOEFL. Silang tatlo po ang kina-consider. It's very rare for schools um, to assess your MOI or your English certificate as mode of instruction. Um, but if you want to apply to Australia, you can talk to Miss Myrene, and we can maybe suggest some schools that offer MOI lang, or if they offer English placement tests for free. So meron pong mga schools na may ganong options, but I can't guarantee that most schools will allow that. So, ayun. Just to set your expectations na rin na if you have, the time and the resources, best to prepare for IELTS, just um, so we can anticipate that requirement will be asked from the school. Ayan. Okay. May proof of funds po ba na need mag-aral sa Australia? Ayan. So as you can see, dito sa slide ko that I'm sharing, the living expenses, the first year of your living expenses, which is around almost 900,000, and the first year of your school costs. Yun po ang ideal amount ng funds nyo when you apply for your student visa in Australia. So you just need to calculate yung 1 year living expenses and then 1 year of your tuition from the school that you will be applying to. Ayan, so you
Miss
can.
Ninya, to further provide detailed information about this
Mhm,
proof of funds. So when it
mm-mm,
comes to Australia, can you tell our students about kailangan ba nasa bangko yung pera? Kailangan ba siya cash on hand?
mm-mm,
Guaranteed
mm-mm,
investment? What's their way to show yung proof of funds nila? Kasi Canada is very different, di ba? Kailangan may
mm-mm, mm-mm.
GIC and cash on hand talaga. So what about in Australia?
Mm-mm. So for Australia, usually What they accept as your proof of funds is a bank statement or bank certificate with the amount of your expected budget. Or kung may sponsor kayo, you can also provide the sponsor's bank certificate and bank statement. And if the sponsor is currently working and may ano po siya, may consistent stream of income that is coming in, they need to provide their proof of employment, their payslips, siguro 2 to 3 months worth of payslips, and their income tax return. So if you will be, similarly, if you will be providing, or if you will be, what do you call that? If you will be paying for your own studies and you have a history of employment, kayo rin yung magpro-provide ng employment certificate, proof of income through payslips and income tax return. So kailangan nakikitang may steady stream of income that will show that you are financially capable of your of your studies.
So,
Ayan.
Miss Ninya, sorry. I just really wanted students to know more about this kasi ito yung usually issue ng students eh. Gusto na lang
Mm,
mag-aral
mm,
but the funds is not enough, 'di ba? So
mm,
basically when it's
mm,
about Australia, they don't need to have the money on their bank account. Enough na yung employment letter ng sponsor or
mm.
ni student to show
Ah,
na they have the capacity.
Actually preferable pa rin na merong money sa bank account kasi part of preparing for your studies in Australia is seeing na may savings ka
Right.
um, that will be enough for your budget in Australia. So preferably pa rin meron naka-ano siya, naka-document siya in your bank
Right.
in your bank accounts and yeah, so bank certificate, bank statements are still considered, and there have been situations in which even the schools will request to see 1 year's worth of bank statement from your end bago nila ibigay yung offer letter. So that's also something that you need to prepare for when you are planning to study in Australia. Ayan. Okay. Sige. Can I work while studying? Yes. So definitely, students are given part-time work limitations. So currently, it is around 48 hours per fortnight or every 2 weeks, or siguro mga 24 hours every week. Ayan. Um, I will discuss
Sorry,
it
Miss
later
Nina.
on. Yes.
I wanted to add about work while studying kasi we're comparing it
Mm-mm,
with Canada, 'di ba? So in
mm-mm.
Canada, it's only 40 hours per fortnight. And for Australia, it's
Mm,
48 hours.
48.
Yeah. And what
Yes.
about the minimum wage naman sa Australia in conversion to Philippine peso?
Mm, I need to check on that. I need to check on that and get back to you if that's okay. Let me see if I can do a
Kasi
quick.
I mean, the 8 hours for
Mm-mm,
every 2 weeks is like 16 hours for 1 month, 'di ba? So
mm-mm, mm-mm,
comparatively, may edge na agad yung pagwo-work pa lang in
mm-mm,
Australia kasi
mm-mm,
much higher yung hours niya. Kasi in Canada talaga 20 lang talaga siya. And I mean,
mm-mm,
I like the
mm-mm,
part na sa Australia, more than like 16 is another 20 hours basically if
mm-mm,
you run it off,
mm-mm,
'di
mm-mm.
ba?
Yes. Okay. So I did a quick Google search. Currently, the minimum wage in Australia is 23.23 Australian dollars per hour. So yan po ang ating 23.23. So if you calculate that in 2 weeks or in 48 hours, you can earn um, around 1,115 Australian dollars if you are working minimum wage in Australia. So, ayan.
May
But also,
idea ka ba, Miss Ninya, kung
yeah,
magkano yung Australian dollars ngayon to peso?
mm, I think it's around 36
I see.
pesos. Let me just do, yeah, around 36.61 ang conversion rate. Ayan.
So if
So,
iko-convert natin yung, magkano yung na-compute ulit natin Miss sorry ha, kasi gusto ko
okay
makita
lang.
at mas makapag-decide si students 'di ba based on their number, kung afford ba nila
Mm-mm.
ang mag-study sa Australia. Kasi siyempre not everyone
Mm-mm.
naman may enough funds and savings and all.
Yeah, I understand. Okay, so ang minimum wage in Australia, just to reiterate, currently is 23.23 Australian dollars. So in 1 hour, that's what you can earn. And in Philippine pesos, it's 850 pesos. So yun po
Hmm,
ang potential earning potential na ma-earn nyo in Australia
right.
in minimum wage.
That's
Ayan.
great. Kung ikukumpara siya sa Canada, depending na din sa
Mm-mm.
province, but let's say the average is $15.60 Canadian dollars. That's the
Mm-mm.
minimum per hour and it's just equivalent to 639 pesos. So dun pa lang
Hmm,
'no, may
okay.
pagkakaiba na sila like higher yung, minimum wage in Australia
Mm,
and then they
mm,
can work more in 1 month, like
mm,
16 more hours. So for our students, you could take that into consideration if this could help you, suffice your cost of living, 'di ba?
mm. Yeah, another thing to consider is minsan magkakaiba din po ang standard of living or ang cost of living in the cities of Australia. So as I've mentioned earlier, in Sydney or in Melbourne, the two biggest cities in Australia, medyo mahal din talaga ang cost of living. Like rent can be up to 400 to 500 Australian dollars per week. So that's something you need to take into account, especially if maghahanap kayo ng sarili niyong residence. Whereas if you go to smaller cities like Perth or Gold Coast or Adelaide, the rent can be only up to about 300 Australian dollars or less per week. So definitely kung minimum wage ang inyong ang na-earn nyo in your part-time job, um, you also need to kind of budget wisely so that you can provide for your accommodations and day-to-day expenses. Ayun. And of course, para makaipon ng konti. Ayan.
Ayan.
Okay.
Alright, let's continue, Miss Ninya.
Okay, sure. So ato, uh, let me, but balikan ko yung yung work, yung part-time work. But in terms of preparing for your studies in Australia, usually ang application period are once you're ready to send your applications to a particular school, it would be best to prepare 6 to 8 months ahead of time or ahead of your preferred intake. So, in Australia, for your information, baliktad po ang seasons nila. So, ang summer po nila is around December to February. And then, ang winter is around July to August or September, no? So, you need to also make sure you prepare accordingly when you leave for your intake. So, for example, if you want to take the July intake next year, application months would usually be January to March. And then if you want to take the February or minsan may March intake, months happen around August to October. So when I say application months, yung pag-submit ng application to the school. And then most schools, pinaka-standard na po ang July and February intakes. But there are some schools who can offer spring intakes like in November, October or November. Or minsan may mga monthly intakes. So those are the providers that offer vocational studies usually. So it will really depend on the school that you have chosen kung kailan ang ibang mga programs that they offer. But yeah, uh, the winter and summer intakes are the most common, and I recommend you take 6 to 8 months to prepare uh, to start submitting your applications para din may time for your visa processing. Ayan. So general school application requirements very similar to Canada. The filled out application form, your transcript of records or predicted grades if hindi pa kayo nag-graduate from your current qualification, your diploma or certificate of graduation, your English proficiency exam. So if you have IELTS, PTE, or TOEFL, and then as I've mentioned, there are some schools that can allow MOI, but I can't guarantee na just because you have your MOI included in your application, it means that your IELTS will be waived. So, just to, so best to prepare na. Ayan. Minsan po may extra form ang school where you write your statement of purpose, but you can also start drafting your essay for this. So, essentially, what they need to see in your statement of purpose is a quick background about yourself, your education, and work experience, if applicable. And then, if you have it would be if you can explain also your motivation to study in Australia. Bakit Australia ang pinili nyo compared to other countries that you are considering? Why did you choose that program and that school? And ano po ang plans nyo for your career after you finish your program in Australia? If you can give examples of what position or what role you would like to take after your studies, that would be great. Just so they can see na may value po yung pag-aaral niyo in Australia and makaka-benefit po siya sa inyong career. Ayan. And then work history, so your updated CV or resume, and if already available employment certificates. Pwede naman po siyang ihabol later on. But ito na po yung some requirements that you can start preparing. So I'm not sure if there are any similarities to Canada or um, meron bang differences, Miss Mary?
They're very similar, I would say.
Yeah.
The only difference I think is yung IELTS talaga kasi here in
Mm-mm.
Canada usually na-waive na talaga yung IELTS for most schools,
Mm,
especially if not
mm,
healthcare field, 'di ba? But other than
mm,
that, it's very different statement of purpose, employment
mm,
certificates and things like that. Yeah.
mm. Ayan. All right. So, ayan. So, ayan. I can't make any promises about schools waiving IELTS because it can really be case to case and it really depends on the school, no? Um, but yeah, Um, in terms of scholarships, most, if not all schools naman in Australia provide scholarship opportunities that you can be qualified for. But what you need to know is that one, they do not provide full scholarships. Very rare po or hindi po talaga siya something that is offered by most institutions. Two, there are government scholarships that are available, but usually they are given for postgraduate or master's degrees. No, in terms of the partial scholarships that the school offers, it really depends kung magkano yung tuition fee discount that you can receive. Some schools offer around 3,000 to 6,000 to up to 8,000 tuition fee discount per year of study. Some schools offer 20 to 30 to 40% of tuition fee discount. So we just need to look into what scholarship opportunities are being offered by the school. Um, but in order to get these scholarships, you can either apply. So aside from your application form, yung general application form for the school, meron ding extra application form for the scholarship, or minsan po automatic na pong binibigay. So what that means is once nag-apply na po kayo at inassess na po ng school yung application nyo and they see that you are qualified for a scholarship, when you receive your offer letter, nakalagay na doon yung scholarship that you receive. So that would be the best possible scenario for you now. And scholarships are given yearly. So if you are unable to receive a scholarship when you first apply, but you proceed with your study in Australia, you can apply for scholarship while you are there. Yeah. To retain a scholarship, usually there's a grade requirement, or of course, um, the minimum requirement for you is to maintain your enrollment in school and have passing grades. There are also bursaries that can help fund your accommodations, especially if you want to live in campus. And of course, it is not recommended that this is going to be your main source of funds. So I provided the list or the budget, estimated budget for your first year of study. Still, very much recommend that you aim for that kind of budget and not rely on receiving a scholarship uh, to to help fund your studies. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think we should tell students too na very different yung scholarships sa abroad compared to Philippines. Kasi 'di ba
Mm-mm.
here in Philippines usually pag nag-apply ka ng scholarships covered na yung whole 4 years or
Mm-mm.
ano yun, bayad talaga lahat. But in Canada
Mm-mm.
and Australia, it really depends sa kung a-applyan mo, pasok ba yung grades mo, pasok ba yung programs mo,
Yes.
and it's not covering the whole semester or the whole program itself. Usually
Mm-mm.
mga 1,000, 2,000, ganun lang siya. So,
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
it's just a bonus basically, but it cannot be your source of funds talaga. And Miss Nina is right
Mm-mm.
with that.
Yes, yes. So there are schools that offer na once you get the scholarship, you can get this amount for every year of your studies. But of course, you need to look into those specific, kung ano yung specific information ng scholarships that are provided by the school. Ano ba? I forgot something. But anyway, when I remember it, I will mention it again. But ito, in terms of the part-time work entitlement, so yes, students are allowed to work 48 hours per fortnight or every 2 weeks. So that is a bit different from the 40 hours in Canada. And if you have a spouse or a common law partner who will be joining you in Australia, they can also work part-time. But for students who are studying their master's or their PhD in Australia, their partners can work full time. So that's one perk that you can consider if you want to take your postgraduate studies. Ayan.
So
Um,
that's another difference with Canada.
mm-mm,
Kasi in Canada, no matter what your program is, even if it's a masteral, diploma, associates, or whatsoever,
mm-mm,
your common
mm-mm,
law or OWP could work full time. But in Australia, just to reiterate, the only partner po that could work full time is kung masters or PhD po yung tinake yung program. That's why it's really
mm-mm,
important to choose the right program when applying for student pathway.
mm-mm. Yes, yes, definitely. Okay, so the last part of our discussion will be about visa. I'm sure you guys have a lot of questions about this, but I'll do a brief overview of the requirements and the process for it. And then later on, once we get to that stage, we will be happy to provide more support for your visa application. But generally, the visa application requirements are, of course, your health insurance policy, or they call it OSHC in Australia, or Overseas Student Health Cover, your documents such as your passport and birth certificate, your GTE or genuine temporary entrant documents such as your statement of purpose. So pwede nyo gamitan yung same essay that you used for the school application, your certificate of enrollment. So ito yung equivalent ng LOA in Canada. Ito yung makukuha nyong letter from the school once you pay your tuition deposit. Ayan. And then your previous school documents, such as your diploma and transcript of records from your previous qualification, and your proof of English proficiency. If you are taking your spouse or a partner with you, of course, kailangan covered din sila ng health insurance, yung documents nila such as passport and birth certificate, a letter of intent explaining why it would be important for them to accompany you as a student in Australia, and then your marriage certificate or proof of relationship. So if hindi po kayo married, pero long-term partners na po kayo, pwede pa naman po kayo sumama. Um, in terms of proof of relationship, you just need to provide, if you already live together, your shared bills, with both of your names or any other assets that you may have together with both of your names in it, or affidavits, notarized affidavits with statements that statements that certify or declare that you have been in a relationship, pati na rin pictures or messages, screenshots of messages that you have together to show that you really do have a relationship. Of course, hindi naman dapat yung masyadong personal na pictures or personal na messages. Just something that will be enough to prove that you have a relationship together. And then for school age dependents, of course, also need to be covered by your health insurance policy. Um, their passport and birth certificate. And this is very crucial for students or for children who will be joining you in Australia. It is required that they are enrolled in an Australian school. So before pa kayo makapag-apply ng visa for the student or for your child, kailangan po na may school na po siyang mapupuntahan when they go to Australia. And later on, we can discuss the process for this, but essentially, there is the equivalent of the Department of Education in Australia per state. For example, if you will be in New South Wales in Sydney, you need to contact the local Department of Education there, and sila po ang mag-a-assign or mag-a-assign ng school para sa student because this assignment of school is based on your location where you will be living in Australia. So it's not something na, oh, I want to go to this school. I want my child to be enrolled to this school. Hindi po ganun. Parang they need to assign you to a public school based on location. Except if you want to enroll in a private school. So ayun. So and then once you have enrolled your child, you need to get the authority to enroll from that school. So that will be part of the students of the child's requirements. And then there are forms that you will need to fill out. They are available online, but essentially the forms that you need to complete are Form 54, which is a list of your immediate family members, whether they live in Australia or in the Philippines or anywhere else in the world. Basta nakadeclare po doon kung sino yung mga immediate family members nyo. A Form 956A if you are authorizing someone else to receive your visa coordination or communication for your visa application. And then for your children, Form 1229, which is the consent to grant visa to minors under 18. So these are available online. And if ever you do apply through Miss Myrene, we will be assisting or we will be over helping out through the process for visa application. Aside from those, may second page pa yung requirements natin. Ayan, financial documents and home ties. So, it's also very important that you show na merong motivation to come back to the Philippines because student visa only gives a temporary stay in Australia. So, as I mentioned earlier, my financial docs can be in the form of bank statements and or bank certificate, your employment certificate and payslips, your income tax return or other business documents that you may have if you are a business owner or if your sponsor is a business owner. Um, Properties or assets of your or other assets back here in the Philippines to provide examples of your home ties, your financial declaration or affidavit of support from your sponsor. Ayan. So other sponsor documents is your sponsor's ID, so their identification document, their bank documents or employment documents if they will also be providing financial support to you, and your proof of relationship. So if ano naman, a family member, it can be through marriage certificates or birth certificates. And just to also reiterate yung financial requirements. So yung tuition fees, living expenses, other expenses for dependents, and travel costs computed for 1 year. Ayan. Let me check if may mga ilang months po sa ang bank statement. So usually 6 to 12 months po ang tinitingnan nila na um, bank statements. Ayan. Pag sinama po family, may proof of funds din po sila or same po sa kanila? So 'pag meron pong kasamang family, may additional po 'yan sa living costs. So, what I've mentioned earlier, let me just go back to that slide. Ayan, yung living expenses na almost 900K, that is computed only for the student. So if you have a dependent, let me just check ha. Um, in Australia, may additional po yan. So, it would be around, ito, um, it would be around 7,362 Australian dollars for the partner or spouse, and then around 3,000 to up to 11,000 per year for a child, depending on what age they are. So let me leave a private chat. I'll chat this to Miss Myrene so that she can also comment this dun sa mga chat box natin on Facebook. Um, but yeah, when I share the slides, I can also add this in the information that I will be sharing. But just to reiterate, ayan, just to reiterate, may additional cost po if you are bringing your family. So around 7,362 Australian dollars for your spouse or partner. And then for a child, depending on their age, around 3,152 to up to 11,448 Australian dollars per year. Sorry, nung ginugol ko naka-Australian dollars, so you can convert na lang accordingly. Ayan.
Yeah. So may another question dito I think we missed. It's about sa Aussie po ba required na ang proof of funds is deposited sa bank in Aussie? Same in Canada.
Hmm, no, not required. So, okay lang na local bank here in the Philippines. But of course, ang amount is around the same amount that is required in Australian dollars pag kinonvert. Ayan. Okay. Meron pa ba akong na-miss na ibang
I think
questions?
na-answer naman natin lahat, Miss Nina.
Okay, sige, let me just go back. We're almost done, but of course we can keep discussing some points, or if you have other questions that you want to raise, feel free to just leave them in the comment section. Ayan, ang visa application process. So very similar to Canada, you need to log in to an IMI account. So you create your own IMI account based on your email, and of course you need to create your username and make sure you have a secure password. And then may option doon once you go in to create a new application for student visa. Ang subclass po is subclass 500. That is for student visa for any student applicant for Australia. Medyo mahaba po ang application form, so you don't need to finish everything right away. So if you can prepare it as early as possible, you can start filling it out. Pero pwede nyo naman i-save and balikan to edit at a later time. So ayan. After you review all the information that you have provided in the application form and have attached all the files that you need as a part of your application, you can proceed with submitting the application and paying the visa processing fee. So here nakalagay yung fees in Australian dollars, but for the student, the standard application fee is 710 Australian dollars. So that's around 26,000 plus um, for the student. And then for the dependent, it's around 530 Australian dollars, which in pesos is around 19,400 pesos. And then for your school age dependent or your child, basta minor po sila, below 18, it is 130 Australian dollars or about 4,759 pesos. So yun po ang cost when you apply for your visa online. And usually po ang payment forms that they accept are credit card or PayPal. Ayan. So once you have lodged that, you will receive an email acknowledgement, and then you will also receive, okay, medyo specific na to, but I will just, pasadahan ko lang just so you can be aware of your requirements for visa. So once you submit that, you will also need to create your health declaration. So there is a different application form in IMI account. And from there, you will be given a medical referral letter, which you will need so that you can book your medical exam. Ayan. And then the last step is to book your biometrics appointment. So once you book your biometrics appointment, you need to go to VFS Global office here in Metro Manila in Makati. And you just need to bring your passport, of course, and kukunin nila yung picture and fingerprints nyo. So, very important to note that you finish your medical exam and your biometrics within 14 days of lodging your visa. Ayan. And then in terms of waiting time, may differences po siya based on the level of study that you are taking in Australia. So it's around 60 days or around 2 months for higher education. So that's bachelor's, master's, PhD, and up to 90 days or 3 months for vocational or certificate diploma, advanced diploma programs. Ayan po. So when you apply to your Australian school, please make sure na i-budget nyo rin yung time for the waiting period for your visa processing. Ayan. Okay. Before we block accounts needed in to open in Australia. I'm not sure what you mean by block account, but in terms of creating the IMI account, ang main student na po ang gagawa nun. And then no need for the dependents to create their own accounts. Bali kasama na po dun sa application ni student yung dependents niya. Ayan. May upfront medical po ba? So when you take your medical exam, you need to pay na rin po. But I'm not sure if you pay when you reserve, when you book your appointment, or you pay when you get there. It might depend on the medical provider that you book with. Ayan. Okay. In terms of post-study work rights for international graduates, dito po may difference when it comes to Australia and Canada. No, I understand in Canada, as long as you finish a certain amount, a certain period of study, you can work. You can work full time up to 1 to 2 years or more. No, but ito po in Australia may conditions po. So if you graduate from your higher ed degree, so that can be bachelor's, master's, or PhD. You can extend your stay in Australia so that you can work full time to up to 4 years if you graduate from your bachelor degree, up to 5 years if you graduate from a master's degree, and then up to 6 years if you graduate from any PhD qualification. So, ano po ba yung ibang mga conditions for this work extension? So there are just some eligible fields or eligible qualifications that they consider for this extension. So usually po health, medicine, nursing, IT, engineering, teaching, social work, and agriculture, and other related programs would be eligible for this visa extension. So once I share this, I don't know, this presentation, you can also access the link here. It is a list of occupations and qualifications eligible for post-study work rights extension. If if hindi po nagfo-fall yung program nyo into any of these fields, it is still possible to get your post-study work rights. However, hindi lang siya ma-extend to 4, 5, or 6 years. Pwede pa rin siya, you can still get post-study work visa na up to 2 years ang minimum. Ang main condition lang po niyan is you need to graduate or you need to finish a 2-year program in Australia. Minimum requirement po na makatapos kayo ng study in Australia for 2 years. Ayan. Um, is that clear or may questions about or clarifications about it? Yeah, but yeah, I'll make sure to share this so that we can all have access to this information. And I believe that's the last part of my slide or my presentation. But ayan, perfect. So, shinare po ni Ms. Myrene ang link. So, uh, if you're considering finding work in Australia or extending your stay there, please make sure to check all these qualified study fields of study or occupations para lang din ma-take advantage niyo yung opportunity na to. So definitely it would be worth your investment if you go for bachelor's, master's, or PhD degrees if kaya nyo, just so you can have that opportunity to extend your stay and really grow your career in Australia. Ayan. So that's it. Miss Myrene, baka you also have questions or clarifications or anything else to add?
Ayan. So, thank you, Miss Nina, for that very informative session with regards to studying in Australia. And I mean, there's really a lot more information na hindi natin na-discuss, di
Mhm.
ba? Kasi some information was really based on your profile, ano yung
Mm-mm.
career goals nyo and things like that. So, if
Mm-mm.
you
Very
need more
specific.
clarification,
Yeah.
yeah. So, if you need more clarification about it, please feel free to email us. Nandyan po sa screen yung aming email address. So, you could ask more specific question based on your profile, di ba?
Mm-mm.
Ayun lang, Miss Nina, thank you so much again for being with us tonight. We're over 1 hour and I would not extend
Okay
it
lang.
more.
Ano ba?
Ayan.
Yeah.
So, again, si Miss Nina po ay marami na ring natulungang students to study in Australia. So we hope na kayo naman yung next na matulungan namin. Again, this is another
Yes.
option. Aside from Canada, there's Australia and the two are very different, 'di ba? So
Mhm.
really assess yourself as well. Alin ba yung mas afford nyo? Alin yung sa tingin yung mas magma-match sa goals nyo? Either if it's a study, you want to take masterals, you want to bring your family and things like that. You need to take that all into consideration. And again, we're here to help you guys, and we do not ask for assistance fee from our students. Everything is free. Ayun lang po. Thank you so much. Thank you, Miss Nina, again. And we hope to see you on our next live. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good evening. Thank you, Miss Myrene. Hope
Thank
to be
you.
able to help you soon for your study plans in Australia.
Awesome. All right. Thank you, guys. Bye.
Bye.